CEBRadio, DZEM 954, ang tinig ng katotohanan, himpilan ng Iglesia ni Cristo, sumasahimpapawid mula sa Quezon City.
Don't underestimate
the power of a single
conversation.
It could change your whole life.
INCRadio Chatline.
conversations that matter.
Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of INCRadio Chatline. I am your host for today. Also, I'm John Villacruz, live here from Chicago, Illinois. Still got to get used to saying that. I'm not in Rockford anymore. I'm in Chicago now. Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode. Today, I don't know if you may have seen it in the thumbnail. You may have read the title of our episode, but we are going to be talking about how we handle our connections, or kind of how we handle other people. I know the thumbnail has like a specifically about roommates, but for me, I don't have experience on roommates, so I'm gonna sneak in my own experience of just people in general, how I handle people in general. But someone who did experience having a roommate, or I think you still have a roommate, right? It's Tracy joining me here today.
Hello, everybody. It's me again. I'm at this point, I'm like your roommate because you've seen me for like 4 weeks in a row, or like 3. I don't remember anymore. But yes, I have experience having roommates.
Yes. Well, wait. Yeah. 2-3 weeks already, 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think
honestly,
I don't
maybe I'm
remember. At this point, who cares? Doesn't matter. I'm here again.
But you're right. You're the panels and live chats roommate already in that sense. But I mean, just in general though, speaking of like meeting new people, or like for me it's always awkward. But do you remember like an interaction that kind of like stood out for you, where it's like your first interaction, first meeting like with someone new?
I would say that it's probably for me, I would say it's maybe like a school setting, like your first time going to school, and like your parents drop you off, and you're in a new environment, and there's all these children that are not your sibling. So for me, I think that would be, I mean, there's probably a lot of those, but maybe I was too young to kind of remember it. But I do remember a lot of my school days, but I remember a lot more things about myself than say like other kids. So maybe they weren't memorable kids.
Wow. Well, it's funny you brought up like school, because for me that's also how like that's also something that stood out for me. For one reason, it's because my family we moved a lot growing up, so I experienced going to like different schools growing up. I went to a private school, I went to a public school, and honestly I would say I enjoyed the public school more, just because of like the kids are more fun. like they're more, I don't know how to explain it, but how like they're more what's the English word for, they're more frank, like like when they're,
I don't know, I was not in I was in public school in the Philippines for like very briefly, but the rest of it was private school. I would say like, and because I got, I'm gonna say this, it's gonna sound terrible, but I got sorted into the smart kids. So they were not the most fun people, I mean, as a child, but the rest of like the other kids were like, they were more carefree. I would say they were less worried about their grades.
You were in the A class, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it's for those of you
about
who
what
don't
I'm doing
know.
right now.
Yeah. I mean, for those of you who don't, I mean, yes, I would say we all kind of end up in the same things. But for those of you who don't know, like the kind of like sorting, I don't know if it's still the same, but the sorting system is kind of like you have your grade level, which is like, let's say 1, 2, or 3, and then you have like A to, I mean, for my school we had A to C, like
Mm.
classes, and I was in the B classes.
Mm.
For the most part, I was in the B classes. But like when, let's say, when like when you're meeting, or you're kind of starting to kind of like trying to get along with new people, like for you, do you find that easy? Like it's, and I would add to this your roommate as well. When you like met uh a roommate, or you first met your roommate maybe in college or something, like was it kind of like easy to kind of get along with them, or did you have like an awkward, phase?
I would say like it is truly context dependent on where you're meeting all of these people. But if we're talking about like the context of like our roommate, I at least the first time I moved out, um, and this was me living in like around the San Francisco area, the person that I had as a roommate, I already knew who she was, because we were in the same master's program. So I knew who this person was. So I roomed with somebody that I already knew. Of course, living with somebody is different from just knowing that person or being friends with them outside of like a living situation. So for me, there was nothing too awkward about it, but there's like a lot of
Mhm.
adjustments that you have to make, and we'll get into it later, like with like as we go into the discussion. But yeah, I think it depends on the context. So if there's like a clear, you know, kind of setting for where the interaction is going to happen, then it's kind of easier for me to think about, oh, what are the rules of this interaction? If there's clear
Mhm.
rules, then it's not awkward. But if there's kind of like this weird limbo about what's supposed to be happening here, then that's when it feels awkward, because then you're not sure, well, what are the standards or what are the norms for this interaction when we're meeting in this particular context?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure how like college dorms were. I never experienced like college dorms, but
Oh, me
I'm pretty
neither.
sure. Oh,
This was in my master's program already. I was like a full grown adult.
so it was. It's sort of like, what do you call it? Like kind of like an apartment setting already. So I mean, I would say, of course, you have kind of like your own room where it's like like this is kind of like your area, right? Your
Mhm.
area, but you still have to share kind of like a common area, like the
Yeah.
living room, the kitchen. You know, um, was was there something? I mean, you mentioned you knew like this person already before, like you guys became roommates. Like,
Mhm.
was there something that you didn't expect, like a habit that they had that you didn't expect, or that you
Mm.
discovered like about them?
So my first roommate, she had this habit of like having a lot of like small snacks. There's a
Mm.
lot of like small snacks throughout the day. So anytime we were both home, she'd be like doing something in the kitchen all the time. I was like, I swear that she was just in the kitchen like 10 minutes ago and she's back. Um, but I think that's one of the things. And I've moved around a lot too, and one of the other experiences I've had is,
Mhm.
this one was not a great experience, but one of the houses I moved into, and this is like, I only knew one person at the house and the rest of them were strangers.
Mhm.
um and there was, when I moved in, EJ, there was no horizontal space. You cannot put anything down anywhere. It was like all like full of stuff. And there was just nowhere to put
Oh
any, like there
no.
was, the only common area was this kitchen table and the kitchen. Because the
Mhm.
rest of, well, housing, yay. The rest of the house was converted into all rooms. It was truly not the most ideal situation, but what are you gonna do? But yeah, so that was really weird for me to experience that there's no space to put anything on. Like, what are we supposed to do? How am I supposed to prep my meals?
I
That
know
was
it's like,
weird.
I would say it's an adjustment. I mean, briefly, I did have to like kind of like live away from my parents, but I did.
Mhm.
Well, okay, I lived with family. I lived with my grandma and my grandma, my aunt. I lived with them for like a bit for, I'd say, kind of like the first quarter of like my first year of high school. Because the school was like very far away from home, so like I had to do it. But like when you're, even if it's family that you're in, or even if it's someone like kind of having to adjust to like someone else's kind of like their way of
Mhm.
like of like how they run their home and stuff
Yeah.
like that. It's an adjustment.
And it's
You
also
know?
because, especially if you know that you're kind of like a guest,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's difficult to feel that you can
Relaxed.
relax because you're
Mm-hmm.
wondering, oh, am I going to do something or say something that might not be what they're used to? And you're also getting used to them because I mean, this is their space, right? If they were
Mm-hmm.
there before, that's kind of how it was for that house where there was no horizontal space. That's just how they were.
I'm like a massive overthinker. I'm putting myself like I'm putting myself in that situation where I am compelled to say something because I am the type of person where I can't stand clutter. I cannot. I know this looks cluttered, but this is actually I actually designed this this way.
It's there's
I
a
know my
system
background
there.
looks cluttered. Yeah, this is intentional.
Yeah.
But what I can't stand is just everything everywhere. Like I can't stand it. I would be compelled to say something, but I'm
Mhm.
also that kind of person where it's like, would they be offended if I say this?
Yeah.
would they be offended if if I told them that this is kind of this is messy? If I mention that. But speaking on that, like how have you kind of like well on that instance, or maybe you want to talk about another instance, but how have you had to kind of adjust to like other people, in that area of your life?
I would say that because I've lived with several other people before and like I've had that experience where it wasn't so great. Um, but in the instances where I've had better experiences is when I was able to adjust better is when there's like um, an easier way to kind of like say and you don't feel that it's I guess what I'm trying to say is like when there's like clear communication between the people that live together,
Mm,
that's when adjustments are easier. Um, so in the other house that I was in, the house with no horizontal space, it was hard to communicate with everybody because there's just too many people. Do I
mhm.
talk to, the people who were here the longest? Is this their stuff? Like whose stuff is this? Uh, who do I talk to about all of their stuff? Like it's just everywhere. But like even
I'm
now with my
laughing.
why are you
I'm
laughing?
laughing. Sorry, because like in my head, I'm like I don't know why I imagined this. Where if you ask them that, they were just like, I don't like we don't know whose stuff this is. Turns out it was
It's
like a
been there
previous
before.
tenant. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's been there for like 20 years.
yeah.
Nobody's
It's
just
just
said anything.
nobody moved it out. When they moved out, they just left it there. Um, but yeah, like I think that's one of the things is just having more like open communication with the people that you're living with. That would make the adjustment easier. So setting like clear expectations. And I've had this. So right now where I'm living, I have one roommate. I mean, we have our each our rooms. Like we're sharing an apartment, but like between the two of us, we're also kind of you said like you're a massive overthinker. We're both like that. Like my roommate and I are like that, and we know that about each other, so we kind of know how to approach each other about it. Like if
Mhm.
there's like an issue or some kind of like thing, so like, oh, you know I didn't know if she wanted me to move this stuff around, like she left it here, it's kind of in the way for me, you know
Mhm.
I'm thinking about how do I bring this up where it doesn't seem like it's a big deal. So it's like it's one of those things where, yeah, like just being able to communicate
Mhm.
like the why this is a thing, or like why is this something that kind of bothers me, and the other person being open to that without feeling like you are attacking them. So I think really it comes down to being able to communicate with the person that you're living with, and being able to communicate in a way that is like respectful and cordial, and you're backing it with this is how it makes me feel. then
Mhm.
then it's easier to adjust as long as that person is receptive to that kind of like line of like discussion.
Yeah, I feel like like I'm thinking of like, well, how can you do it like wrong? And in my mind, I'm thinking like, well, maybe if you're passive aggressive about it, then yeah, that
Mhm.
like that would, like, I, if you're just like kind of like honest, like what you were saying, like let's say they left, their stuff in
Dishes.
the yeah, they left their dishes. Let's say for example, they left their dishes like in the sink, and you're like, let's say you approach it kind of like, like you approached it passive aggressive, like, like I wish we all knew how to wash our dishes, kind of like something like that. Then yes, that would offend them. Like I'm putting myself in that position, that would offend me. Like just tell me directly, because I feel like the honesty is, even if you're like, for you massive overthinkers out there, like that would be more the respectful approach, kind of like, like you're being honest about it, like I'm sorry, but like the dishes in this thing are kind of bothering me a little bit. Like I don't know if you would mind if I washed them. If I
Oh
washed
no,
the
they have to
dishes,
wash it. Can you please wash it?
Yeah, for you that's like kind of like a rule. Like for me, I guess I don't mind. I don't mind it because I'm the one being bothered by it. So like in my head, it's like,
No, you're being too
that's like
kind.
on me.
If they're adults, they need to be able to do it themselves. You know.
That's true.
Otherwise,
That's true.
otherwise it's going in the garbage. EJ. I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna do that.
I'm guessing this is why I don't like. This is why I don't have roommates. 'Cause I might be taken advantage of, but
Oh,
well, and since we're kind of like speaking on like adjusting and like communicating with like the other person, have you had to like kind of like manage a like I would say, I wouldn't say a fight, but kind of like a conflict, what do you call it, like like just the things didn't align on like your ideas just didn't align on stuff, especially when with the shared kind of like the common area for you.
I mean, yeah, I mean, like communication is the important part of that, because if you're not communicating clearly, then that's when misunderstandings happen. So like for my roommate and I now, we communicate mostly via text, right? We just message. And messages, you can't really convey like the mood or the tone.
Emotion,
So it's easy to kind of misconstrue what somebody means. So there's a lot of like extra kind of like messaging that kind of just says, this isn't a big deal. I just wanted to let you know. There's a lot of reassurance in that, because it has happened before where, if somebody's like very frank or just very like, straightforward in a face-to-face conversation, you can get that right away. Oh, they're just being very straightforward. But in a message, if you read it, you can interpret it in so many ways. So yeah, it might come across as rude if you don't add any extra kind of like reassurances there. So it really is like, communicating the intent, like, hey, I think this is in the way and I don't want to destroy your stuff. Like I don't want to get your stuff, I don't know, like I don't want to get your stuff like food on your stuff, that kind of thing, because it's here in a common area, or like it's in the splash zone of the sink.
You left your notes on the coffee table. I'm drinking my coffee. I don't want to risk, like, so do you mind if I move it like somewhere else?
I mean, that's the other thing too, is because we all, like whoever you end up like being roommates with, they've grown up in a different household with different like things that are normal for them. And I grew up in a different household where things are normal for me, but your normal and my normal might not be the same. So if it's normal for you to like, pick up stuff and like put them away, but that might be the case for the other person, right? Like for them, if they leave their stuff there, it's their stuff, don't touch it.
and they know, like I know some people, like they may seem like they're messy, but they know where their stuff are, like where the stuff is, like in the mess, they know where exactly everything is. So that might be their way,
Yeah. And it really just boils down to like talking to them about it, and talking to them like, oh, for me, I don't, I'm just being respectful, but for them it might be, oh, actually I just don't want my stuff to be moved. And that's their preference, and that's something that's part of like the adjustment. But you won't know what to adjust to if you don't communicate with the other person.
So on that, like, and I know communication is like one thing, but
Mhm.
just like for you, like how do you? And this is like kind of like a personal question for me as well, because I want to know. Like I am not planning to have any roommates soon, and honestly, I don't know if that's in the cards for me. But like, uh, how do you kind of balance, like being a good roommate while also you're kind of like, you're also protecting your own needs, your own values.
Mhm. I mean, you kind of like talked about it, right? Like just knowing kind of your own, like what is important to you, what do you value the most,
Mhm.
and I guess like one of the other things we want to think about is like, okay, how do you like it's we're gonna go back to communication because that's part of like living with other people is you do have to talk to them. Unless you're massively introverted and you just don't want to talk to anybody else. Um yeah, so like knowing your values, knowing where you stand on certain things, um and that kind of helps you like with protecting yourself as well because for me I don't really want conflict or drama. Like that's something, it's because it's life's hard enough, you don't want to add more to it.
Mhm.
um so you know being true to our values, I mean for us especially in the church, right, we want to be true to our values of, okay, I want to be able to relate to people in a good way. I want to exemplify the values that we have in our faith. So part of that is being able to relate to other people, not necessarily like just in a nice way, in a way that you would get stepped all over. It's not that. It's like being able to communicate with them clearly and being able to like say it in a you know kind way that they would be receptive to adjusting to you as well, and that where you are respectful and they would respect you back. So like for me, being able to do that is like one of the ways that you can protect yourself, and being able to set that boundary with the people that you live with, especially if they're not of the same faith.
Mhm. And yeah, like this something that like really stood out to me, like what I just said is like, and this is something that I want to tell people as well. It's like when you kind of like how you approach people kind of also sets the mood on how they're going to respond to you back. So if you approach with like with that kindness, even if let's say okay, let's say the dishes bother you, okay, let's say that the clutter bothers you. If you approach them with like kindness, like, and this is not just speaking on like roommates, just people in general,
Mhm.
like especially if you're kind of in an environment together, you're coworkers, you're in school, you're working on a project together, like even if something bothers you, if you approach it like with kindness, because like for us, like you said earlier, that's like kindness is something that we like that as Christians we value, you know.
Mhm.
So when you approach with kindness, people are usually more receptive to that than if you kind of try to boss them, rather than if you kind of try to boss them around, right? So, yeah, like with everyone there, we hope that this has taught you something, especially if you're planning to have roommates, if you're, or just in general, like let's say you're going to join the workforce, you're going to like maybe a new grade level in school, or you're moving to a different place where you're going to have to interact with different people. Hopefully, this helps you in how you communicate, how you get along with other people. And we do hope that we see you again next week here on INCRadio chat line. Join us again for another episode. And if you have any ideas or any topics that you want us to talk about, you want to talk about it with us, just put them there in the live chat, or after the show, you can put them in the comments as well, and we'll try to get to all of them for our next episode. So have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll see you again next Friday. Goodbye.
Bye. Have a good weekend. Oh, here we go. Here we go. We're on Grid View.